All right, what we're going to talk about is how to solve equations that will end up involving complex numbers. 4x squared plus 16 is equal to 0. The question is asking you to solve for x. So to solve for x, what I have to do is get it all by itself on one side of the equal sign. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 16 from both sides. When I subtract 16, I am left with 4x squared equals a negative 16. Now to solve for x, I want to divide by 4. So divide both sides by 4, and I have x squared is equal to negative 4. I'm very close. I don't want to solve for x squared. I want to solve for x. So to offset a squared, the inverse would be to take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And what do I have left? I have on the left side x, and on the right side the square root of negative 4. However, you have to remember that whenever we take the square root of both sides of an equal sign, we must write plus or minus. X squared equals negative 4 means there are two solutions. X to the second power means two solutions. And so what I need to do is not lose those. So to retain them, I have to write a plus or minus. The square root of negative 4 is the square root of 1 times 2 times 2. When we break it down, I have a pair of 2's. They will come to the outside. And I have a negative 1. When you have the square root of negative 1, that is I. However, be very careful. That 2 and that I come before the radical, but after the plus or minus. And since there's nothing left in the radical, I'm done. All right, let's try a second one. Again, I want to solve for x, so I'm going to subtract 54 from both sides. And what do I have? Those cancel out. 3x squared equals negative 54. Now, to solve for x, I'm going to divide by 3. Let's see what I have. X squared is equal to a negative, 3 goes into 5 one time, 3 goes into 24 8 times. X squared is a negative 18. All right? Again, to solve for x, not x squared, I'm going to have to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, I have to remember I have a plus or minus. Now, let's break down the negative 18. Negative 18 is negative 1 times 18, and 18 is 2 times 9. And 9 is 3 times 3. All right, there we go. Now I have a pair of numbers. I have a pair of 3's that I'm going to write on the outside, but I must be careful. This is more important because it wasn't really an issue over here, but it is on this one. Those 3's cannot go in front of the plus or minus. They must go after it. So I have a 3, and let me move this over then. That goes to the outside. I also have a square root of negative 1, which is an I on the outside, and I have a 2 left over. So my final answer is plus or minus. That means I have both a positive answer and a negative answer of 3i times the square root of 2. There we go. All right? So every one of these problems, when we want to solve for x, we're going to subtract and move that value over, divide by anything that is in front of the x squared, and then I will take the square root of both sides. Because it's the nature of what we're studying right now, every time you should have a square root of a negative number. And so we just break it down. All right, good luck.